Hello there, my name is Michael Maynard and welcome back to Gorilla Picking. Now, what we're going to do today, folks, is pick this Bilock. So it is Bilock QCC, and I thought, which stands for Quick Change Core, right? And what I thought we might do is first talk about what the Bilock is and how it works, and then what you're going to need to do to pick the thing. So this is going to be a long video. The picking of the lock is about 14 minutes worth, so it's a long, tedious pick, and I won't I won't think bad of you if you don't hang around for the picking, all right? But it's certainly a great lot to learn how to defeat. So first thing you ought to know is how the lock actually works. It is one of Brian Preddey's designs. So as I'm sure you guys know, Brian Preddey is my hero. There's no doubt about that. He designed the Bilock. He also designed the Galaxy. So he was the man behind ALC, Australian Lock Corporation, and just a fantastic, literally a visionary designer. The thing about Brian Preddey is that he could see things like this in the insides of the Galaxy in his head. He could visualize that stuff where nobody else could, and so he designed many actually really interesting locks. But the Bilock works on a very simple principle. So it doesn't have driver pins. It just has single sliders, so there's a spring and a slider in each little chamber here and nothing else. And each of those little sliders has a false and a true gate. So if I can grab one of these and show you that, you'll see that we have got a true gate on the bottom of this particular pin. That's a hole, and then a little divot, a sort of a hole, but it's not terribly deep, which is the false gate. And of course, as you would expect, they join up with holes, or at least pins on the sidebar. So you've got the sidebar like this. This comes from a different brand of Bilock, so it's not the QCC, but the principle's the same. So you've got the sidebar with its 6 fingers. You've got the pins like so, and if the sidebar is jammed onto a false gate, you're not going to have much movement, and if it's in a true gate, you're going to have just the tiniest bit, and I don't know if you guys can see it there, but you've just got the tiniest bit of movement there, and that in fact is the trick, the key to getting this lock open. So determining between the pin states is the thing that you need to learn with this lock. We're going to talk more about that in a second. So we've got 6 of those on each side. Bi means 2, obviously, so it's basically 2 locks side by side. The key looks like that, and on the quick change core ones, on the QCC ones, you can have little dimples on the sides of the key here, which interact with these ball bearings on the core, and those let you withdraw the core so that you can rekey the lock. It's a very cunning system. Okay, so having talked briefly about how they work, the next thing we need to do is talk about how you are going to get into them. The first thing you're going to need is some tension. Now, the real trick to this is that you want to tension in such a manner that you are not going to snap off this little finger that goes down the front of the keyway. If you are tensioning from this side, from the right hand side going clockwise, and applying tension that way, you do that long enough and you are going to snap that little finger off. So what you actually need to do is tension, if you're going clockwise, from the left hand side of the keyway like that. You want as little movement as you can get, so ideally you want a tensioner that only just fits in there. On some of these you need to make a tension tool, so You need it pretty snug. If you can't get a tension tool in there that's pre-made, then just go ahead and make one. Right, next thing you're going to need is a couple of picks. You are going to need 2 picks for almost all these locks. Why? Because almost all of them have got a high pin somewhere hidden behind a very low cut. So with the Bilock, there isn't a max requirement in the same way that we think of on normal locks. So on a normal lock, you really can't have a very high pin hiding behind a very low one. On these you can, so it's really not a problem. So what you are going to need is a standard short hook for most of your picking, and what I'm using here is the pick that Tiffany made me when I got my LPU black belt. It's an absolutely gorgeous pick. It's a thin pick, so it's 18 thou, and it might even be thinner than that. And it is loosely based on the Tron, so it's very similar to the Tron. It is in fact 39 mils, 15 thou. Yeah, okay, so it's a pretty thin pick. And I like a thin pick here because it lets you alter the angle that you're picking on in that keyway there. Now, with that said though, like I said, you are not going to get all of the pins with that short hook, and so what you are also going to need is a much steeper hook that you can use to sneak under and get those ones. Now, I personally love the Peterson steep hooks. The number 7 and the number 5 are 2 of my favourite picks. I love the number 7 in the 15 thou and the number 5 in the 18 thou. So I used the thinnest one that I had, which is this one here. And what I had to do, I had to thin down the shaft of this. So I quite literally just got the Dremel and took about 1/2 mil off of this part of the shaft of the pick, so that I could then sneak in and get under this very low set pin and get up to pick these higher pins at the back. You will need a steep hook and a short hook. Right, so that's your equipment sorted out. Tension tool, 2 picks. The next thing we need to talk about is technique, and there are a couple of really, really important things that you've got to learn how to do when you're picking this lock. The key one though is to distinguish between the pin states. So you need to have the ability to get in there with your pick and determine between a pin that is set in a true gate or a pin that is bound in a false gate, or is binding on the pin is on a what are we calling these, little finger somewhere, but in neither a true or a false gate. And then finally a pin that's not binding at all, it's just completely springy. So the real trick to this is knowing when you are in a true gate and leaving it alone. You need to know what that feeling of being in a true gate is like. And if you recall, I showed you that with these things, when you're in the true gate, there is just a tiny, tiny little movement. You need to know how to work that out. Now, a lot of the Aussie guys use a thing called the clicky test, and they sort of flick the pin with the tip of the pick to see if they can feel that movement. That doesn't work for me. I can't make that work. What I do is a little double tap. You'll see me doing this all the time when I'm picking this lock in a few minutes time. I get under the pin and I give it a sort of a double nudge like that, and that's enough for me to see if there is any movement there at all, or if it's springy, or if it's rock hard or whatever. Develop your own thing, guys. I mean, you just got to do it. The other bit of technique that you got to learn, you need to learn how to move the pin just a little bit at the time. So these pins, when they are not in a true or a false gate, but they are binding on the finger, they actually pick a bit like a tapered pin. And so you need to know how to move it very, very slight amounts without oversetting it. And in fact, when you watch me picking this in a few minutes time, you'll see that right at the end of the pick, I've got the right hand side completely set. I've got the first 3 pins out the front of the left hand side set, and I overset a pin down the back a couple of times in a row. I think it was pin 5. And I have to release tension and drop it and try again. So the reason that happened was I was being a bit ham-fisted, and it was close to the end of the pick, and I was rushing a bit. So you need to know how to go a tiny bit at a time. You need to develop feel and subtlety, basically. Right, well, I think that is enough of an introduction, guys. That has been about 10 minutes worth, believe it or not. So the next thing you're going to see is this thing mounted up in the vise and me picking it. I really hope you enjoy the video, guys. Don't feel obliged to watch the whole picking demonstration if you don't want to, but if you are interested, leave a comment and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Thanks for watching, folks. Enjoy the rest of the video. Let's get this open. So we have a key. Key operates the lock. Key also will allow us to withdraw the core. So doing everything that quick change cores should. We got the tension tool on the left hand side because we're going to be applying a fair bit of tension and we don't want to snap off that little wee tooth. The right hand side binds first. So we're going to start there. I think pin 1 actually needs another click. Five definitely needed a click. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, hello. Right, I think we've got all the pins in gates now. So let's see whether they're false or true. Four's in a false gate. Something's dropped. 6 has dropped. Oh, okay. Six is in a true gate there. 5's in a true gate. 4's in a true gate. 3's in a true gate. 2 I'm not sure about. We might be close to having that picked. I think we're going to have a look at the other side. Yeah, okay, well, wow. All right, so okay, I think we've got the right hand side picked because when I clicked 1 on the other side, it dropped into a huge false set. So I'm thinking 5s and a gate here. Wow, what's going on there? Okay. 6, 5, 4s and a gate. Three, 2 is in a gate, I think. No, I'm not sure about 2. Wow. Okay. Don't think we're far off having this open actually, folks. So 6 is in a false gate. It's dropped right down actually. I'm wondering if I can hoist it up a bit with this pick. Yep. Six, 5, 4. Close to an open here, I think. 6. Does something out the front need settling down? 1, 2, 3. No, we feel good out there. Let's go down the back again. Click on 6. Just seeing if anything wants to drop because it's overset. I don't know that it is. Come on, 5. Four's our binder here. It's binding so deep in the false gate, I'm having trouble getting it out. That got it. 6, 5, 4, 6, 5, 4. Come on. Trying desperately not to drop or overset anything here. Right, I would have said that was open. So we're 8 minutes in. Let's figure out what we're getting wrong here. Nothing there. Nothing there. And we're open. We were hung up on one of the sliders on the left hand side. So took 9 minutes. That was a bit of a mission, but we got there. So I think now what we'll do is pull it apart so you guys can see what's in there, and then we'll call this done. Lock it up, pull it apart, and okay, so there you go, folks. That was a bit of a long, slow pick, and the reason for that was that I got hung up on the last couple of pins on this left-hand side here. I actually think I had something overset, and so what I did was backed off on the tension, waited for something to drop. Actually did need to do that a couple of times before we finally got it set. So that was why you saw me going round in circles between 6.5 and 4.654 on that left hand side. So you can see that we've got all standard pins there. There's no mastered ones. That does make these locks harder to pick. So in their mastered form, they're actually reasonably simple because you get 2 bites at the cherry. There's no real false gates, but with these you've got one false gate, one true one, and it does make it a bit harder. So there you go. I hope you learned something, guys. I'd love to know what you think of the Bilock. So if you've got a question, leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it, eh?